This is where the fun begins.
General Kenobi.
Hello everyone and welcome back to Jedi Knights, the official Star Wars podcast of Joy Clicks. I'm your host, Christian Buckley, joined for episode 57 by Mike Connors.
I like 9 more away, man. It's just ticking it off. It's like Ray in the AT-AT, just every single day, just one little more mark closer to 66.
Mm-hmm. What if?
Wait, what?
I was gonna say, what if we wanted to get like super obscure with the like our Star Wars fandomness of everything, and like that's how we label our episodes.
Oh yeah, I'm just like one tally mark every. The episode titles are like super long.
Yeah, honestly, now that I'm saying that, because like the funny thing is that, right, like, oh, the references whatever, but actually the reference I feel like would be using Roman numerals. Do you think there's a Star Wars podcast that numbers their episodes with Roman numerals?
I mean, I feel like that's probably what we should have been doing this entire time, although it starts to become like we'd be in Super Bowl territory right now.
Yeah.
You know, we'd be like L something or other.
Jedi Knights episode L.
Yeah, literally.
How are you doing, Mike?
I'm good, man. I told you off air that I was playing Lego Star Wars today. Probably I did that all day. Had other things I probably should be doing, but I did that instead.
Nice.
So, yeah. What about you?
I'm doing well. You know, we're back in our Star Wars cycle of news. Well, the news, surprisingly, we both found this year didn't really stop, but
No.
The atmosphere, the feelings of things. I think right there.
Right. I think Star Wars news will never stop. There'll always be something to talk about.
Yeah, even if it's like tangential, it's like, oh yeah, hey, this weird random thing from the Colin Trevorrow sequel to episode 9, actually.
Literally, like, we're watching test footage from a TV show that'll never come out. But yeah.
So we do have a little bit of real news and a little bit of that type of news this week. We have, I almost call him Han Solo. I have Harrison Ford's comments regarding his thoughts on Solo, a Star Wars story. Some Mando Monday recap for the new merch. A little review discussion about this new trailer for the Lego Star Wars Holiday Special. Yeah. As well as a Boba Fett rumor, and of course our review and discussion of Chapter 10 of The Mandalorian. Just call it The Passenger. But before that, Mike, we're going to kick off how we normally do with our segment from the Jedi Archives, where we pull from the sacred texts of Wikipedia, educate each other and the audience on something that is either canon, legends, anything involving Star Wars documented in the sacred texts. What did you choose this week?
So I chose a character. I think I may have chosen him in the past now that I'm thinking about it again, but I may have not. Lor Santeca. Okay. Does that come as... Do you remember me pulling that before? I don't think I have.
I don't think you have, but I know the name. Like, I know that character, but I can't put a face to it.
So, Lor Santeca is in the opening scene of The Force Awakens, he's the person who gives Poe Dameron like the map to Luke Skywalker. Mm-hmm. So yeah, he was a human male explorer, a member of the Church of the Force, who was born in the waning years of the Galactic Republic. He became a believer in the ideals of the Jedi Order during the Clone Wars, despite not being Force sensitive himself, and followed the underground faith of the Church in the dark times of the Galactic Empire. So I guess he just was a Jedi fanboy in a way, and sort of just like espoused those ideals, and afterwards helped out the fledgling New Republic.
So I'm wondering, the Church of the Force, I have nothing to like associate that with, but in my head I thought of Chirrut from Rogue One. Do you know if he was also a member of this religion, or was he was a guardian of the Wills, right?
I believe so. Yeah, I don't think he was part of the Church of the Force. I think Church of the Force is sort of like I think it was sort of like people who may not have been Force sensitive, like worshiping the Force,
okay.
Like as a concept is what I think that is. Um, yeah, the Guardians of the Wills I think was more of like a ancient Jedi sort of thing.
Yeah, that makes sense. I pulled up Chirrut's page, and yeah, that is confirmed. He was a guardian of the Wills. He is not a member of the Church of the Force, but interesting.
Yeah, I'm looking at the Church of the Force Wikipedia page, and it seems as though I was right. It's a religious institution composed of loosely affiliated worshippers of the Force.
Very nice.
Yeah. So what about you? What'd you choose?
I chose a character from a video game that I played a little bit of last week for the first time ever.
Okay, all right.
I wanted to call him Scizor, but it is pronounced Shizor. Prince Shizor.
How does you spell that? Like
Xizor. Pronounced Shizor.
All right.
A fallen prince of House Zizran and the leader of a powerful criminal organization, Black Sun, during the Galactic Civil War. Shizor was a ruthless competitor and charismatic public figure in high society with his headquarters in the city planet Coruscant. Shizor is, I believe, Legends now. I don't think Shizor's been canonized, but correct me if I'm wrong, I think the Black Sun is canon again.
I don't know for certain. The name sounds super familiar. And you know what video game is this from?
This is from Shadows of the Empire. He's the antagonist. I played through about half of that game last week for the first time, and he was introduced right about when I stopped. But yeah, it was a big reveal. It's like, oh yes, the Black Sun crime syndicate. And it's like, wait, isn't that one of the ones that Maul was working with in like Clone Wars?
I don't know. I think it may be. Yeah, I can't say for certain though. I mean, that's interesting. Like, say it is. Would you want to see this character kind of like return to the canon in the same way?
No. Just because, like,
why?
I don't know. There's something about his design that I don't love. He looks like this is gonna be a deep cut. I didn't even see this movie, but I've seen the picture. The live action Dragon Ball movie, their version of Piccolo, the green man that wears purple. That's all I see. It's like a bad version of an anime character.
Yeah, I never watched that movie, so I'm not familiar. Yeah, I'm looking at the Wikipedia page for him, and he's not really a looker. That's for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, it does seem as though the Black Sun criminal syndicate does exist in the canon now.
Yeah, because I think maybe like season 5 or 6, whenever Maul... No, it was 5, I think. I think Maul was working with the Pikes, the Black Suns, and the Crimson Dawn is what that whole thing was, I think. So
interesting. Well, that's a good pick.
Thank you.
That's a real deep cut. How are you liking that game?
It's fun. It honestly, we were talking last week about what we want the next Motive game from EA to be, right? This is kind of what I was envisioning. It's like I easily, if I started like an hour or two earlier and the checkpoints weren't so brutal that when you died you have to start at the beginning of the level. That's like,
yeah, that's really bad.
Yeah. If it wasn't like that, if there were checkpoints and I gave myself a little bit more time, I probably could have beaten it. So I was really surprised that, and I'm gonna finish it at some point, but it's broken up into levels, right? Not like a seamless world progression or anything. It is level based. Each level, you're like, the first level is it's the Battle of Hoth. You're in a snow speeder and you gotta like take down some of the AT-ATs. Then you're in the hangar on Hoth, and it's like you're going through corridors as Dash Rendar. You're shooting up stormtroopers. Then the next one, you're in your spaceship and you're flying through space, and then it's like an on rails thing. You're piloting the gun, and then the next one is like, okay, you're in this sandy area now. You're looking for Boba Fett. It's really cool, and I really like how diverse all the levels were, and all of them, like, they achieved the thing they were trying to do, and it felt very cohesive despite being completely different on every level. So If we could get something like that, modern day, maybe it's like 6 hours long, got a good spices in there, good seasoning. Yes, please.
Yeah, you need more of the spice and seasoning, I guess.
Yeah.
That sounds fun. I know that like that was just a big publishing effort, not just video games and everything. Do you think that maybe you're gonna want to like look at some of the other media that came out?
I'm not too sure because I know there's comics, but I don't know if those comics are available easily. So I might look into like some YouTube videos. I'm sure there's some Star Wars YouTube channels that like have everything documented very well, but
I'm sure, yeah.
I'll say this too because Dash Rendar was my thing last week for Jedi Archives. I was fully expecting shameless Han Solo clone, and he has some different delivery, so he's got his own vibe going. He fills that
That's
void, but he wasn't a 1-to-1 clone.
Okay, so not a 1-to-1 clone, but like pretty similar though. Like, yeah, okay.
But I was surprised.
Well, that's good. Yeah, maybe one of these days I'll have to play it once it goes on sale again.
Yeah. I picked up that, and I picked up Battlefront 2 Classic for like $5 the other day on Steam. So
yeah, when you see that on sale, you got to go for it. Honestly, man, that's what I felt like when I saw Lego Star Wars, and now I'm finally finding the time for it. So
hell yeah. Well, that does it for the Jedi Archives. But speaking of Han Solo, we have some quotes regarding the future of the character in movies, TV, Disney Plus, what have you. In a recent interview with Lights Camera Barstool, Ron Howard was being interviewed about his involvement in Star Wars. And
Lights Camera Barstool, is that like a Barstool Sports thing?
I'm assuming it is. They have a million different outlets. I don't know anything they do, but
neither do I. That's why I was.
I saw that name. I was like, I'm assuming that's what it was. Regardless, two quotes. First up, we have one about the hashtag movement and what it means for a sequel. Ron Howard said, "There's no rumblings though, and this is not a spoiler or anything, but I think there is interest in those characters. I think there's interest in the gangster world somewhere down the line, but I can assure you there is nothing being developed right now for a movie or Disney Plus. But one great thing is there has been a lot of affection shown for Solo, and so of course that keeps boding well for them to eventually turn it around." What do you think of that? Just a lot of stuff we've speculated, but
it's a lot of stuff we speculated, and like honestly, whenever I hear somebody, of Ron Howard's stature, directed a movie for Disney, like is very involved in the process, and probably definitely has connections with higher up Disney people and knows what's going on. Like when they say that, when he says like, "Oh, there's nothing in the works," like I just don't believe him. Or just like it's hard to believe him.
Mm-hmm.
It's like how could we take anything that he says seriously about these issues?
Yeah,
because even if something was happening, he'd have to say it's not happening,
right?
And like he said, there's a lot of interest in the characters and stuff. Like it would be kind of silly that they didn't do anything with it at some point.
Yeah, and
I don't know if it's necessarily in the works right now.
Mm-hmm.
I would be surprised if they weren't talking about it.
Right, because remember, earlier this summer we talked about that Lando series that is, I don't remember if that was officially confirmed or what, but that I would count as like falling under the requirements or the meeting the boxes of a solo project, like it's Donald Glover reprising his role as Lando, so
yeah, totally.
Like I would count that. So yeah, I'm with you. I don't necessarily believe him, but it's interesting to see him talk about it and say, like, continue fueling the idea that yes, the hashtag does get notice on an executive level. So that's still good to see.
Definitely. I mean, it's just only a matter of time till Disney decides to do something with those characters. It's not one of those things that they have to do immediately. It's not like Alden Ehrenreich's really going to go away anytime soon.
Sure. And like, just because I know people bring this up, it's like, oh, so what? 5 years from now, Alden Ehrenreich's going to be older than Han Solo, or Harrison Ford was when he played Han Solo in A New Hope. Doesn't matter.
Oh, it literally doesn't matter. I mean, they could just like they can Tony Stark him, you know,
Yeah,
just make him look mad young,
yeah,
easy.
very easy. Speaking of Harrison Ford, though, Ron Howard also provided some insight. Apparently, Harrison Ford finally saw Solo. I don't know when this happened, but the last thing we heard of it, he said he didn't see it. Um,
When was the last time he said he didn't see it? It must have been like right
I
near.
I think it was at Star Wars Celebration, like maybe two celebrations ago. I think he was on a stage with Carboni, and Carboni was like, "Oh, did you see Solo?" And he's like, "No."
I love
Like
it.
I think that was it. Um, so according to Ron Howard, quote, Harrison Ford liked Solo and very much, or sorry, Harrison Ford liked Solo very much and was supportive when he saw it. He was so gracious and complimentary to Alden. He said some things publicly, but privately, it was really great to see him put his hand on Alden's shoulder and say, "Great job, kid." And Alden worked so hard, and it was a very high risk situation for him, and he was a cool customer, and was really a pleasure to work with, as was that entire cast. They're just a great bunch.
I could just visualize Harrison Ford just like putting his hand on Alden's shoulder and being like, "Great job, kid."
Yeah.
Like that's such an image. Like that's really sweet.
Yeah. Yeah. And it, as both of us walked away from that movie really loving his take on the character. So, like, hearing, I would say, what might be giving a blessing or a slight behind the scenes passing of the torch, you know? Like, that's cool to hear. It's cool to see.
Totally. I mean, it's undeniable. Like Alden Ehrenreich did a very good job. I don't think really many. I don't think most. I feel like a lot of people, most people can just agree on that fact. Say what you want about like the movie in general, but like he did a pretty good job portraying the character.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's nice to see or hear that Harrison Ford, thinks similarly to us, since he is that character.
Yeah. Now,
He really is.
how much of this do you think is Harrison Ford being like, great, they don't need to get me anymore?
Probably a lot of it, honestly. Though he does like the money, which is probably why he came back for episode 9.
Yeah, you're probably
How
right.
much? How much you want to bet they paid him for that?
Oh,
A
for
lot.
episode 9? Absolutely, man. I'm convinced.
They
Yeah.
paid, they paid
Yeah.
him a lot.
That wasn't a favor.
No. I'm saying like I wonder how much they paid him.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I bet it was like slightly higher than what the SAG rate is for being on set for a day.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But you know who is also stepping into some big shoes? The cast that is filling in for Daisy Ridley, John Boyega, and Oscar Isaac in the Star Wars Lego Holiday Special.
Yes.
Because we did get a trailer finally.
We did.
I think it's at this point it's confirmed that Rey, Finn, and Poe are being voiced by other people. It is not Daisy Ridley, John Boyega, or Oscar Isaac playing those characters.
It's funny you say that because like the date, whoever was voicing Rey definitely sounded different, but like Finn and Poe, I didn't really notice.
Yeah, I think I could be wrong on this. This is just going based on what I heard because I did see that Kelly Marie Tran and Billy D. Williams, they're playing their characters, and we did talk about that in previous weeks. So I would have figured that if they were reprising their roles, they would also have headlines.
Sure.
But yeah, to me they sounded off. I don't know if it was actually them, but about like a 90-second trailer, got a good setup. Had that Home Alone Christmas track when they're all running around the house, whatever Christmas song that is, that was playing the whole time.
That song never fails to get me hyped about Christmas.
Yeah.
So it seems as though like Rey finds this I don't know if we want to get into that really quick.
No, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, I mean, so the trailer shows what seems to be the plot of this holiday special, and it seems as though Rey gets this like key to time and space, and she goes in the past through all the movies, and it seems as though Palpatine is obviously looking to scheme and get this and use it for his own evil, nefarious use. So yeah, therein lies the plot
Mhm.
of the holiday special. It seems.
Yeah, initial gut reaction. What do you think of that? Because I think this was like spelled out for us before. I think we got a synopsis about it, but like this is like seeing it in action, seeing the tone they're taking with it. Where do you think?
I think it looks great, man.
Yeah.
It really does. It really does. It's got the. It just feels really fun.
Mhm.
Like the gags just like hit every single one of them. It feels a lot like the old Star Wars video games in a way.
Mhm.
Um, and like I think it's just an interesting way, like an interesting plot device to sort of just get all the characters in this one movie, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's creative. It probably would. We don't know how it's all set up in the movie yet, but I'm sure it makes sense. And the fact that Palpatine wants to get it and use it for his own nefarious use, like that's classic Star Wars right there. It hits all the buttons for me, to be honest.
Yeah. The trailer full of puns, so I appreciate that.
Yeah,
Um,
there's some really great jokes in there.
and they very clearly, much like the old Lego games, I think they have a like a tongue in cheek sort of approach to like the criticisms that some people have in Star Wars. Like there was like the stinger at the end of it was like old Han and normal Episode 4 Han,
Hmm.
and like they were looking at Greedo and they're like, "Oh, do you want to shoot first? You want me to shoot first?" Like, and they both blew him away at the same time. So like it's stuff like that. So I'm wondering if they'll touch on any of the critiques of the sequels, because like it's a fun thing, it's a fun, like we're all laughing with each other about how ridiculous Star Wars can be at times. I because i don't think this is gonna be canon. I think it would be very funny if it was just like, yeah, there was like, after we buried the sabers, we did this whole time travel thing at one point, and then Luke saw like three versions of himself. Like,
Yeah, I don't think it's gonna be canon. I think it's just a fun little thing that they're putting out.
mhm.
And like I don't really think it needs to be canon.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean like it just for me like it really just hits all the buttons. It's a very good like Star Wars. It's good Lego Star Wars action in my opinion. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. There was also a poster that was released alongside the trailer. The poster did showcase Finn yet again wielding another lightsaber,
Of course.
and it was a yellow lightsaber.
Interesting. I
So
didn't see this, so maybe I should look it up. Do you think they're gonna try to do some Finn is force sensitive thing in this?
I bet when we're introduced to the Life Day episode, I bet within the first 3 minutes, like the opening is Rey helping Finn train, like doing some meditation or something.
Do you think
You know?
so?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then he's acting like a goofball. Like when he was trying to interrogate Phasma, I'm expecting that energy from Lego Finn. And then,
Interesting.
and then like, oh, all of a sudden we find this star chart that leads to a time travel puzzle key. So
Yeah, no, it's interesting actually. I'm looking at the poster right now too, and both Rey and Finn have their own yellow lightsabers.
yeah, so I'm wondering what that is. Like, is it just
I don't know.
again them using the same lightsaber at different times? I don't know, but
It's possible, yeah.
yeah. Now, I don't know if they set a runtime for this. I'm expecting it to be like 40 minutes or shorter.
I'm expecting, yeah, like 45 minutes, maybe even an hour at most.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna be something that you could put in on an hour like on TV or something.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah, but I'm looking forward to it. That is dropping on November 17th, so there will be one more episode before that's out. And yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It's gonna be a fun time.
Are we gonna review it? I hope we do.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely, 100%.
Yeah,
We're doing a full
yeah.
review of that.
It looks great. I'm so excited for it.
Yeah, me too.
I think this is like I need this because I was super excited for the game to come out, and then
Hmm.
they totally that didn't work out. So
You make good points. Um, Why don't we talk about some Mando Monday stuff? Because
oh yeah,
Lego
took
Star
a-
Wars merch.
I took a look at this as well.
Mhm. there were two standouts for me. One of them was just because of the episode we just watched, but there's a new Funko you can get of the child eating eggs out of the canister of eggs.
Great.
Yeah. You can get that. That is a Funko that is going to go on sale. You can also, for I think $120, you can get a Black Series helmet replica of the Mandalorian's helmet.
Now that's cool.
Yeah. If I had $120 that I didn't want, I would probably buy that.
Yeah, it seems like it has like some sort of flashlight on it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't exactly know like what the features are here, but it looks like really nice. I hope it's like good quality and stuff for $120.
I would assume it is. I've seen in stores before, like the Boba Fett one or Stormtrooper one from that line, and they always look like those are the nicest looking Star Wars helmets I've ever seen. You know, I haven't like touched it or like put it on or anything, but like I've seen it on display and it always looks really nice.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Was
cool.
Yeah, was there any other standout merch for you today in this new batch?
I thought the Remnant Stormtrooper looked cool. I'm just into the new Black Series figures, and I'm just like waiting for them to make a Cobb Vanth one. I really want that.
Yeah.
The moment that comes out, I'm buying it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because I just that's what I want to see. But otherwise, yeah, it seemed pretty light. I like the Remnant Stormtrooper though.
Yeah, the Remnant Stormtrooper was cool. I don't know if that's teasing anything to come or if that's just like in reference to some of the ones we saw in season 1, but it did look cool. But yeah, Mando Monday. Continuing.
It seems like that's more in reference to the ones that we've seen, but who knows?
Mm-hmm. Well, you're talking about Cobb Vanth getting a figure, right? We're talking about all this merch. Last week, I don't know if we talked about this, but I think you sent this my way that Disney and Lucas recently did a trademark for Boba Fett. Like they renewed one. It's a brand new trademark for Boba Fett. Now this week, via Deadline, The Mandalorian Season 3 could begin filming this month.
Wow.
But there are rumors that potentially, in the same report from Deadline, rumors that another Mandalorian-related project, possibly a Boba Fett miniseries, would film first, starting next week. And then The Mandalorian Season 3 would start production after that.
Wow. That's interesting. I mean, we haven't seen any Boba Fett yet.
Yeah, so...
Like, or like very little Boba Fett.
That's why I'm kind of inclined to believe this, because last week, go check out the last episode. We were dead set that this week was like the other half of the story on Tatooine of like, what, okay, Mando gets back to the child, Boba Fett tracks him down, XYZ happens, he gets the armor back, and that was not what this episode was. So I can't imagine we go back to Tatooine again this season. Maybe we do, but I don't know. So, like, what happens with Boba Fett? Like, we saw him look out at the armor. Is he going to track him down this season? Is the miniseries about Boba Fett tracking down Din Djarin? And then season 3, they meet up, and then they have their big conflict that we get built up in Boba Fett's miniseries. Like, where do you think this is going? Do you believe this? What's up?
I mean, okay, so I think, like, you know, we're only 2 episodes into The Mandalorian. There are 6 more to go. It's very possible that at some point Boba Fett can show up again. Mm-hmm. It doesn't have to be on Tatooine. You know, it could be somewhere else. You know, who knows where he parked the slave one, right? Like, sure. He could have crawled out of the Sarlacc and hopped right back into that bad boy. So who knows? I don't know what the deal is going to be. I think that it's probably likely he's going to show up again this season, and they're going to sort of like use that as a backdoor pilot to sort of get people hyped up for this miniseries if this is true. I find it odd though that they're already like putting all of their chips into that basket before anybody sees anything Boba Fett related. I think though, like his name alone could, a lot of people will be interested in it just because of his name is attached to it.
Right. I think, were you talking to me before? I don't know if you talked about this on the episode, but didn't you say like your dad watched the episode and like you had to let him know it was Boba Fett's armor and that was Boba Fett?
Yeah, I mean, like I would consider my dad like pretty like Star Wars savvy, and like he didn't notice that, which is like, I don't know how savvy you are if you didn't notice that, but like like you got to think that he's not the only one, right? Like,
right. So like just having a show titled like Boba Fett, like he'd know that, right? He'd recognize that if you let him, you're like, hey, that is Boba Fett. It's like, oh yeah, I know Boba Fett. So they're doing a show,
sure.
like.
Sure, yeah. I guess it was just like my whole thing is that it would be weird to do that if like he doesn't show up at all. You know what I mean? Like he hasn't shown up in any like capacity, any serious capacity yet, and they're already putting their chips into that basket. But he is a popular character. He's been around for a while.
Yeah, the interesting thing, I think, why I could believe it, despite the point you're making, which I think is a fair point, is that with the case of Boba Fett, it's interesting and it's rare because he is literally a blank slate. Yep. They could do anything. They could do anything they want with that character.
Literally.
And people will watch it because it's called Boba Fett. I don't know if there is any other character in Star Wars that gives you that much of a just a complete blank slate, and you, no matter what, you have so many people tuned in just because of the name. Like, maybe you could have done that with Darth Maul before he was introduced in Clone Wars again, but I don't know who else you could do that with.
Yeah, I mean, Darth Maul would have been the only one if you didn't have him in Clone Wars. The thing that gets me though is that like the Mandalorian, like he seems like what Boba Fett, what everybody imagined Boba Fett would be, like it seems like because Boba Fett didn't have that much of a personality or a character in the original trilogy, people sort of like made up their own headcanon about him, and like by and large I feel like that's like where the Mandalorian comes from. Like to me, like the way the Mandalorian acts and the way he is like how I as a kid envisioned Boba Fett, So it makes me wonder, like, are we just gonna have like two characters like this, or are they gonna like go a different way with Boba Fett? I think there's a lot to be explored because he has a lot of history that people are familiar with. Just depends on where they go with that.
Yeah, and I think that's where the miniseries part is interesting, because if it is similar in like tone or approach to the way it's presented to Boba Fett, to Din Djarin, then I could see relegating that to a miniseries, so it's not just like oversaturation. I think it would be a bit more of like the Mandalorian is already a little gritty, and it's a little dark in terms of the way he handles situations. Right? He's not like a good guy. He's kind of in the gray area. He has a good heart, but he'll murder people. Like
sure,
he won't hesitate. Yeah. I envision if they do a Boba Fett thing, they're gonna want to be like, they're going for the edgelords of like, oh yeah, you want like crazy dark Star Wars, right? This is the Boba Fett show. Like, I think they could just like make it distinct that way. I don't know if they would do that, because I think your comparison of the way you see Din Djarin act is what you envisioned Boba Fett act like. I would still think Boba Fett is more of a villain in my eyes than Din Djarin ever could have been.
I know. I guess what I'm saying though is just like, the way that the Mandalorian was set up, like in the first, second, third episodes. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
That sort of vibe of like this guy is sort of like a bounty hunter, like on the edge of space, like doing things and like he's like a lone wolf. That's how I sort of imagined Boba Fett. But you are correct. Like, I would also say that Boba Fett is definitely more of a villain character than the Mandalorian, which makes me think maybe that would be a good sort of back and forth between Mandalorian and Boba Fett, either throughout this TV series or the miniseries. There could be they could play off each other really well, I think.
Yeah. One other question or idea I'll throw out there too is that if this is going into production before Mando season 3, and as of like a week or two ago, Mando season 3 is still on track for next holiday, like, do you think we get like a ton of Star Wars shows next year? Like, because Cassian's supposed to start shooting soon, so do we get just like Cassian, a Boba Fett miniseries, and then the Mandalorian, and then the Bad Batch next year? Is that just like a ton of stuff?
I mean, it's going to be one of those off years, right? It's going to be, again, like one of those years that we don't get like any movies. So they're going to have to fill in the gap somehow. And I think that they're not going to let us, they're not going to leave us high and dry. So if we're not getting a movie, it's likely we're going to see something like that. I mean, this year feels like a little bit different. It's just like a bit of a specific case, 2020. But like, yeah, I think that they probably had that in mind for a while.
Yeah, I think that's a fair expectation to have for next year.
I hope so, at least. I just want to see more Star Wars stuff.
Yeah, because at the very least, we do get Bad Batch, right? That's coming. So
that's true.
With that, though, why don't we talk about the Star Wars TV we have right now? That is Chapter 10 of The Mandalorian. This episode is called The Passenger. It was directed by Peyton Reed, the director of Marvel's 2 Ant-Man films, Ant-Man and Ant-Man and the Wasp. And I'm just realizing now that that's probably why we had an ant character in this episode.
Oh, Dr. Mandible?
Yeah.
Yes.
that is probably there because of that.
That was like a very creepy alien. I was reading about it. And apparently like people think it's some like Legends creature from Alderaan.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I really liked the lighting on it in that scene because it made it look like shimmery in that way that only stuff in like episodes 4 and 5 are.
Yes.
So that was like super cool to me. I was like, hey, that looks really nice.
It did look really good. It looked like definitely one of the cast of characters in the cantina in episode 4.
Yeah, for sure. But this episode, shorter than last week's. We're back into that about 40-minute mark. This one is deviating again from what a lot of people want the show to be. It was
wholly side quest.
It was entirely a side quest. Now, just baseline impressions, I enjoyed it. Again, as someone who would be completely fine if just every year we get 8 episodes of this awesome Star Wars character having a bond with this child and then they're just doing stuff together in the galaxy. I'd be completely cool with that if that lasted 8 years and that was all we got. You last season mentioned that you were just waiting for the plot progression. Granted, we're 2 episodes in, and last week you said you've sort of reassessed that expectation. What did you think of this episode, like, straight up?
Straight up, like, I wasn't as into it as I was the first episode of the season. I have to say, I would be lying if I said I wasn't just a little disappointed that it was like another side quest, because I do think that the first episode, like, while side quest, I don't think is the right way to put it. It didn't like necessarily push the overall plot forward very much. I wanted to see something like that come from the second episode of this season, since we do have limited time. And, I guess I was disappointed on that front because it did seem sort of just like random. But, other than that, like, it was very fun to watch. It was just cool to watch, them go on this adventure again. And like I said before, when we were reviewing season 1, it's not like I disliked the episodes where they went on like some sort of like one-off adventure. It's just that, I felt like there was a lot of them. I'm not sure if that's going to happen with this season, but overall, like I liked this episode. I thought the spiders were kind of creepy.
Yeah.
I, but yeah, it was interesting. Like every Star Wars, every episode of this show is going to expand the lore, so that's something that I'm interested in. But yeah, I guess if I had any qualms, it would be that it doesn't push the main plot forward as much.
Sure, and that's completely fair because I was last week fully expecting this week to be the Boba Fett episode, and it was not.
Yeah. I mean, like it's weird though, because like we only have eight episodes, right? And we're already on episode 3, and there hasn't been much forward progression yet.
Right. I will say it seems like I don't know where we're gonna end up when we kick the episode off next week, but it seems like we're going to a new planet where potentially we may see Sasha Banks, who may or may not be Sabine. So like, I think there's a set number of things that I would say are probably first half of the season based on the trailers we had, that every episode we don't do that is getting closer to the episode where that thing from the trailer is there, be it Sasha Banks or Grief and Kara or the scout troopers on the speeders, right? Like, I think those things come into play within the next 2 episodes, because I feel in my marketing brain that the second half of the season is mostly unshown right now.
Probably, yeah.
So
I mean, I don't know. It's one of those things that like I feel like this episode, though it may seem underwhelming at first, I have like this feeling that it's going to fit in.
Yeah.
Since it does seem like a 2-parter. You know what I mean? It leaves it off on sort of a cliffhanger, so you could, if you want to call it that. But yeah, I mean, it definitely is one of those things that I feel like might have, when we watch all the episodes, we look back on it and say, oh, it showed us things that at the time we didn't necessarily realize. But yeah, like, what's up with that? What's up with the eggs? Like what? Like why is Baby Yoda eating those? Why does she need to go fertilize them? Like, what's the point? I feel like that has to have some significance.
Yeah, and even if it's not a lot, I think it might be something that comes into play eventually, because like, think about even within this episode, right? There at the very end, when Dave Filoni and the other New Republic fighter pulls up to save the day, they're like, hey, we ran your thing, there's a warrant on your arrest because you broke out prisoner XYZ from this rebel transport, and that was the season 1 heist episode. So like,
yeah.
That episode that we thought was like super cool but had nothing to do with anything, I wouldn't say there's consequences, but like right now there's like, hey, consequences is the right term here, but like not to the extent people are wanting, right? Like season 1 is like, oh, we did this, why? Tell me why. It's like, oh, down the line he will come into a situation where people know who he is and know what he did, and that might harm him. This case it didn't, but like I could see this episode and what happened in this episode have some sort of effect like that down the line, even if it's not this grand consequence,
Yeah, and we've already seen, some consequences, some ripples of like, actions and decisions made by the Mandalorian, show up in other episodes, like, when he escaped Navarro and all the Mandalorians had to help him. Fennec Shan used that against him or tried to use it against him, and like, get that other bounty hunter to turn on him. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So like, it's possible that it'll show up in some other way, but I mean, overall, I like the episode. I don't know how you're feeling on it.
No, I liked it too. I thought it was charming. I like, honestly, again, respect to all 3 actors that portray Din Djarin, because it is 90% of the episode is him speaking with a frog that does not speak any English, and the child, so like it's a very tight cast, and I think it's still is entertaining to watch the whole time, even though there's one person speaking English, right? Like, and it goes just to play into the Mandalorian playing to the side of Star Wars that is the production aspect. You know, it's not just like the story or the spectacle. It's like, hey, as a production, this is pretty intricate and it's interesting to watch and it's entertaining to watch. So on that angle, I liked it. I thought it was a nice, again, new, well, not, it's like it's going into tropes of like an escort mission basically, but
definitely
we haven't seen that yet in the show, you know? So like playing with that a little bit here, I liked.
For sure. Yeah, it's interesting. It's fun to sort of just like, I don't know, like I say this all the time and I feel like a broken record, but it's just something that like it all adds to the lore, you know.
Mm-hmm.
If it's not like progressing the story that much, it's just adding more to Star Wars in general. And I think it's cool to see this, like just like weird things, like why couldn't they go to hyperspace, you know? I guess because her eggs would fry, like it's just super weird. And I guess that planet that they went to, we were all speculating was Ilum, but it turns out it's not, or it doesn't seem as though it is.
Yeah, it very well could have been. We just don't know. They didn't be like, oh, pull up our star chart, it was Ilum.
I would say it's probably not, because we know it was under Empire control and the First Order took over it, and they say it was New Republic space.
Good call.
So I don't think it was.
Good call.
Not to just like totally like blow that up. But
yeah. I'm trying to think of anything else. It was cool to see Dave Filoni back. You know, he's basically a space cop right now.
Yeah, I know. It's like, I don't know, like what's next? They're gonna get pulled over because like they have a busted taillight or something.
Yeah.
But I didn't understand actually that like the Republic X-wing pilots like let them go at the end. Just seemed weird to me. They're like, yeah, we decided to save you, and we'll give you this one off.
Yeah, I think it was. So I watched it today, so like I have some fresh lines in my head, but I think it was something to the effect of like, hey, we ran the Razor Crest, you have a warrant because you broke this guy out of prison, but we also reviewed the records and we saw that you spared the life of a rebel pilot and you were responsible for the death of like 3 most wanted people, and I think that was the crew from the episode when he made them all blow up in that station, right?
Right.
So they're like, because Dave Filoni was the one that blew up that station. It was him and Deborah Chow and Rick Famuyiwa, I think.
Right. Yeah, they destroyed that space station.
So Mando's tip led Filoni to probably getting a nice promotion because he got these like 3 high targets. So he's like, you know what? We'll let you go. just be cool.
You know what I noticed? You know, this is just something that I watched like a breakdown of this episode, and they noted that when Baby Yoda like goes up to the canister full with eggs, the eggs like move closer to him, as though they're like attracted to him.
I thought he was using the Force.
I mean, I don't know. He may have been.
Yeah.
They definitely moved towards him. I don't know if it was just. I don't know if he was doing it to them or if it was like a natural reaction, right?
Yeah. Lots of Baby Yoda dining in this episode too.
Yeah, he's one hungry boy, man.
Yeah, like he ate like on screen. He ate like 4 or 5 eggs and then a spider. That was that was a feast.
He really like. It's kind of interesting this episode, like. The Mandalorian, like, you know, the whole time I was kind of just like, oh, is Baby Yoda going to use his like Force powers, right? Like, dude, like, you know, wave your hand to do something while all these spiders are attacking you, and he doesn't. And so I kind of was just interested in that because Baby Yoda puts the Mandalorian in a predicament and makes his job like way harder for him.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that he didn't like use the Force, because they could easily just use the Baby Yoda as sort of just like a panacea to all the issues that the Mandalorian comes into. You know, he waves his little baby hand and it's all good. So it's good to see that, like, in a way, like, the Mandalorian has to, like, he's a liability for Mandalorian in some ways.
Yeah. I was right there with you. The entire episode, I thought he was going to have some sort of influence on the conflict to, like, get them out of it, but I wouldn't say I'm surprised that he didn't, but his role in this episode was really interesting to me because I feel like we saw the child in ways we haven't a ton, like sort of what you said, as a liability, but not just for the fact of him being what he is, just in terms of him being a child.
Yeah.
You know? So I like that. I also liked sorry, what were you gonna say?
I was just going to say, like, you know, he was a liability before, in the sense that, you know, and still is, in the sense that other people are trying to, you know, capture him, and that's dangerous in and of itself. But like you said, he's a kid. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of cool to see the Mandalorian have to deal with that aspect of it.
Mm-hmm. And just even going further with the fact that he's a kid is, like, I really liked seeing him, like, Mando and the child just sharing the bunk. Like, he put him in his little, like, hammock, and then he just got in underneath him, and then, like, also when he was, like, sleeping in the cargo hold, and he just, like, cozied up to him, and then
no,
like,
that
he's
was
a kid.
So cute. Yeah, that was so cute when he, like, he puts his head, like, rests his head on his armor and stuff.
Yeah, and, like, he's working on the ship. He's like, Dad, something help, and he's like, if you want to be useful, or just go back inside. Like, I like that they're building up that relationship more. And this episode specifically had me thinking a lot of the future of, like, so is he gonna let him go eventually? Like, is he gonna actually let him go to the Jedi, or are they just gonna be like, nah, we're just gonna hang out?
Ooh, the Mandalorian. You mean, like, is the Mandalorian actually gonna let the child become what he's supposed to be?
Yeah, is he just gonna, like, give him up, or because, like, I don't know. I think about it a lot.
I don't know. I think that's gonna be one of, like, the main character moments for him. Because he was a foundling, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, does he sort of condemn Baby Yoda to that sort of fate as well, or does he give him, like, love and a family?
Yeah.
Who knows?
Or is he the only family he ever needs?
Right. Or yeah. Who knows?
But, do you have any
Maybe
other?
the Jedi will be his family.
Yeah. Yeah, and then he gets cut down by Ben Solo, dude. Come on.
Oh man, no! Could you imagine if Baby Yoda's one of the Padawans and they get cut down?
See, this is why he has to go to Ahsoka, because that way Ahsoka can survive that, and then Baby Yoda can be the future. You know?
Exactly. I want to see Rey. I want to see Rey train Baby Yoda.
Exactly, because by then he's probably, like, the age and competency of a youngling, right? So, like,
maybe, I don't know, you know, he would have been like 70.
Yeah, so I don't know how that shakes out, but getting hypothetical on this one. So do you have any other thoughts about the episode?
No, I'm just excited to see the next one. It does seem sort of like a cliffhanger, so it should be good. Yeah.
I was looking at the end of the episode for a planet, because I thought it was going to show them drifting to a planet, not just drifting into empty space. But in one of those trailers, it did show this current banged up Razor Crest floating towards a planet. So it could be trailer editing, but I believe in the trailer it was implied that the planet they drift to is the water planet.
Yeah.
Would make sense if there's this amphibious character they're also working with. So I could see realistically, maybe next week we are on that water planet. We are at that dock area where it looks like Sasha Banks is. So we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see.
With that being said, that does it for this episode and that episode of Mando. So, Mike, until the next one, where can everybody find you?
You can follow me on Twitter at Mike P. Connors.
Very nice. You can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and Twitch at Chris N. Buckley. This show is available on YouTube. YouTube.com/joyclicks specifically is where you are if you're watching the live premiere We have a variety of other shows on the YouTube channel as well, so if you're new, be sure to stick around. This show is also available on podcast services like Apple Podcasts or Spotify, and a variety of others. So if you're on a platform that allows you to rate or review the show, it'd be greatly appreciated if you did, because it helps us out a ton and, helps the show find more people. And if you also want to get involved further, patreon.com/joyclicks, $1, $2, or $5 tiers gets you a variety of rewards and access to things, and producer credit for some like Chris Zakis and Aaron Easton. But that's going to do it for this week's Mando Monday episode of Jedi Knights.
I feel like we talk a lot about the Mandalorian, so I treasure and cherish the episodes where we get to review episodes of the Mandalorian. So
yeah, most of our summer was talking about Mando news and rumors, so now we actually just get to live it. So enjoy it.
It's the catharsis here.
We got 6 more weeks of that. Are we gonna line up? No.
What do you mean?
I was gonna say, are we gonna line up so episode 66 is a Mando review? But I don't think it does.
Oh, that's sad.
We're planning things for episode 66.
Oh yeah, we have to. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yes, but until then, we're fine. Everything's fine. How are you?
May the Force be with you.
Hello there. This is where the fun begins.
General Kenobi!